gotten a lot of requests from people to learn more about how can I buy a piece of land? How can I establish a home base? Maybe become a snowbird, spend my summers on a piece of land that I own, maybe garden, maybe have some chickens. I know that's an urge that a lot of us have. The two seem to go together. That green thumb that says, get your hands in the soil, and itchy feet that says, no, go move. Well, if you can buy a piece of land cheap enough and put a little shed on it and have a home that you love to live in the winter away from it, then you can combine the two super, super well. Today, we're going to meet a good friend of mine, Mark, who's done just that. He owns this land. You'll never get a knock on the door. He owns this land outright. He just finished building that nice shed. He lives always, and will continue always to live in his nice cargo trailer conversion, spend his summers here, he'll garden, he has a home base. So if that's something that interests you, you want to know more about that, we're going to tell you about how he did it, and you can follow in his footsteps. Let's jump right into the video. Welcome back to the channel.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
And we have a video with Mark earlier. We'll put a link to it down below and somewhere around here. Your cargo trailer that you can see in the background there.
Right. Yeah. We did a video over a year ago.
Over a year ago. Yeah.
It's been quite a while. When I first started out, I was a newbie. I've been doing this for well over a year now. It was a little rough start because I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, literally like everybody else that starts this, but you learn, you meet a lot of people, Hawa, and then your channel, Bob, everything, it just comes together.
And if I remember, you were a little bit forced into it. You weren't enthused in the beginning.
Yeah, that's another issue. I lost my job during COVID. I had a really great job. I worked at SpaceX. Lost it during COVID. I had to sell my house, and I kind of got forced into the situation. Just luckily, I had been watching your channels and had been looking into this for quite some time when this all happened to me. And so I prepared, I planned ahead, and when I sold the house, I bought my utility trailer to move on my property. And then once I got that all resolved, I converted it.
So now we're actually kind of in the next evolution of your nomadic life. You've been on the road now for about a year. And we are sitting on land here with the building behind us and your cargo trailer, and you own all of this. So what is this next stage in your nomadic life?
You know, I've been living on BLM land and National Forest land, and you know, every 14 days you've got to move on. And I happened to find this piece of property. Actually, they dropped the price. I just caught it at the right time, and I bought it. 2.5 acres, and I'm out in the middle of essentially nowhere. You know, I love it. It's quiet. I hardly see a soul. I mean, I literally go days without seeing anybody when I'm here. It's beautiful. So, and I'm building my building right now, that shed, and it's taking a lot of work.
A lot of work, yes. So does that mean that your nomadic life is coming to an end? You're going to become a homesteader, or what's the plan going forward?
Well, I'm going to consider myself, unless things change, I'm going to be a snowbird. I'm planning on living my summers up here on my property. Then as it gets cold, I'm going to be moving down to Quartzsite and all those other areas in the winter with everybody else, all the other nomads, and spending my time down there.
You don't think of this as one or the other. You're not homesteading or settling down, sedentary life, but you're not giving up being a nomad. You're just finding a really nice combination of the two.
Yeah, it marries together perfectly because I do have enough land. If I want any of my nomad friends to come up here and camp with me, they're more than welcome. And I like it because I do have my privacy when I want to. Nobody can tell me I have to leave after 14 days.
No.
That's a huge event. And I do have storage. I can't express how nice it is to have that building now. I've already got stuff stored in there. Living out of my trailer, my truck was packed to the gills with all my stuff. It's just so much nicer having a place to put your things.
And you, in the long run, it can save you some money. You don't have to be chasing the cool weather in the summer by going all around. You can just stay here.
Right.
You could spend the rest of your life in Arizona if you wanted to.
Yeah, it does open up a lot of choices. I mean, I could literally go anywhere else I want in the summer too.
Right.
And still have this to fall back on if I change my mind, or I can just come up here and, like you said, save money by not going anywhere. So it just opens up so many more options. Once you purchase the land, I mean, like all I have basically is pay my taxes, and that's it. I mean, I own the land. I've been paying for that as I've been building it, so I own the shed. So no payments. It just makes life so much easier.
And you're young yet, so this really isn't an issue for you. But for a lot of us, as we get older, we need to be tied to a doctor. We're going to a doctor once a year, kind of at a minimum. Here, you could be in your home and have your doctor in Flagstaff or Williams. If you need a doctor, and you need to have a home base to visit doctors out of, this would be perfect for that. And also, a lot of us question, what am I going to do when I get older? And, we were talking about that earlier, that as you get older, you kind of settle down, and the days comes when you're not moving so much. You have a home.
Right. If I get more physically unable, I can set this place up accordingly to if I have some special needs, something like that. So I have a lot of options available to me now that I wouldn't have if I didn't have a real piece of property of my own.
Right. I kind of think of it as a combination of a tiny house living, which your cargo trailer is tiny house living already, and putting it on a piece of land.
Yeah. Well, my situation is my trailer is, it doesn't look like much, but it's the most comfortable thing on this earth. I've been in there over a year now, and it's still extremely comfortable. I'm very happy in there. So this is just a shed to me. I'm going to use it for maybe a work area, whatever. But my actual living area is going to be that trailer. I'm just going to basically park it up next to the shed, and I'll probably run some wires from my trailer to the shed to power the shed up, because I got so much power in that trailer. And I'll just have them both kind of married together as one unit, and I think that'll work out for my uses. To actually live in the shed, that creates other issues legally too, with zoning and everything like that, which you have to follow. And it tends to get expensive. You have to have septic and all that to have a legal place you live in. So that's something you have to keep into consideration. That can get very expensive. So that's why I'm going the route I am. Basically, the situation I have is I'm getting a variance. You pay a certain amount of money every year, and I'm allowed to camp on my property for so many months. You can actually get a variance for the full year too. There's different options you have with the county, but you need to check into that too before you buy land, is what is available and what you plan on doing, really.
Yeah, that is probably the single most important thing we can tell the folks at home is before you ever even think about buying a piece of land, check with the county.
So it's been a good experience for me, and I'm staying obviously within code here. Like my building is considered a temporary building. It's not on a slab, it's on bricks essentially. So I'm keeping everything legal just because it's just the proper way to do it. You don't want to run into issues down the road. To live in a building other than an RV, you have to do septic. This land here is not conducive to septic. It would be horribly expensive. You're totally off grid. There's no electric up here. There is no, the roads are really rough. So you got to bring in your own water. You can't drill a well. The water's too deep and the ground's just terrible. So you have to keep that all in mind. You're basically off grid here.
Right.
But it's very doable. There's a bulk water supply close by, 20 minutes away, that I can get as much water as I want at a very reasonable price. And that's what I'm going to end up doing this summer when I actually start camping out here.
And there's also, you didn't need to, but there's also a lot of land where they'll carry the note. That's $1,000 or less down, and then $100, $200 a month.
Yeah, and then you have those pre-built buildings that you can purchase.
Right. Now, I know another thing that a lot of people have in mind is to garden. I've known a surprising number of nomads who have a green thumb and itchy feet. That's their combination. The itchy feet says keep moving, but the green thumb says dig in the dirt. Have you considered doing any gardening? Is this at all
Gardening's in my blood. I've always had a huge garden. I'm known for my gardens in any property I've ever owned. Yes.
That's easy.
Yes. I'm looking at using screening. I'm going to do gardening, but I'm going to have to screen everything over. The caterpillars will get them. If they don't get them, the bunny rabbits are going to get them. If they don't get them, the mice. I mean, there's critters, and critters are hungry. This soil here is actually more loamy than I would expect it to be.
Really?
Other than the rocks, it's actually decent soil.
Oh.
So I was pleasantly surprised when I was digging in it. So I'm thinking I shouldn't have too much trouble with it. Just give it the little help that it needs and see where we go.
Have you ever thought about thin chickens?
When I was in Florida, when I lived in Texas, I had a couple hundred chickens.
Couple hundred.
And turkeys. I had a bunch of turkeys too for a while, so I've done it.
But because you're going to be a snowbird, you would have to harvest them.
That's the situation. Anytime you have any kind of animals, that you're there. You're stuck with it. I should have been a farmer. I was born to be a farmer, but didn't work out that way. When I purchased the land, I actually came out here before I made any decisions on it, and I was physically on this land, and I marked it out. I pinned all four corners. I found the stakes. That's really important. Make sure you know what you're getting into when you're buying land. So I was here physically. I knew what I was getting into, the pluses and minuses, and the roads. The roads up here are rough, so anytime anybody is looking at purchasing land, make sure they need to be there physically. Right. I think that's one of the most important things, is you really make sure you know what you're getting into when you're buying the land. If you can absolutely anyway do it, go there in person and investigate.
Right.
Really important. Because if I didn't have the truck I have, I wouldn't have purchased this land.
So two really important things we've talked about is always come and visit the land, always call the county office.
Yes.
You want to nail those things down absolutely before you even think about buying.
You've got to plan everything. That's another big part of this too, is when you're living off grid, out away from the cities, you really have to plan everything in advance. You have to keep track of the weather. If you have inclement weather coming, you have to prepare for it. Make sure you have plenty of supplies. You know, I'm solar, so I have no issue with that. But what happens if we get really bad weather for a long time? My solar is going to start going away. Even though I have a lot of battery and a lot of solar panels, in time, you're just going to wear through it. When you know there's inclement weather coming, you have to make sure you have all the supplies you need. So I go into town. If I don't have to go there for supplies for the shed, it's like a week or so out every time. I have plenty to go through, easily a week. So that's how I do things. I'll go into town, do my laundry, do my groceries, Walmart, all that kind of stuff. But it's all planning.
Now, for a lot of us, I'm talking to myself and a whole lot of the audience, you know, if you're going to be stuck out here for a week or two because you can't get in or out, you want some entertainment. You want to get the internet. So were you able to get the internet here?
I have Starlink.
Yeah, that settles that, doesn't it?
I love my Starlink.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to work. I helped launch some of the satellites when I was working at SpaceX. So it's funny. I did that part. Now I'm using the thing. So I love my Starlink. That's another thing about the area I'm in. The cell signal is awesome. I get 3 to 5 bars.
If that's really important, and if you don't want to spend the money on Starlink, it's going to be much more careful. You have to be much more careful to make sure you have internet.
Right, and that's another thing too. Like I was saying earlier, to actually visit your property,
right.
Go out there and turn on your cell phone,
right.
And see what kind of a signal you have. That could make or break the deal right there too.
Right.
I guess sum it up, I'm extremely happy. I got lucky. I found a decent piece of property at a very reasonable price. I did my due diligence, kept at it, and it worked out really well. I couldn't imagine not having this land now. It's just part of me now. And it's changed my future a little bit, obviously, for the better.
I don't see any conflict at all between being a nomad, being a snowbird, being on the road, and having a piece of land as a home base. I think they just dovetail together so fantastically well that if it's something you're thinking about doing, Mark's advice here is so perfect. Just diligence, hard work, go look at the land, always check with the county, make sure it's the land you're going to be happy with, and it's out there for you. I believe it will be out there for you, and you'll find it at the right time. Well, Mark, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. I think it's really going to help a lot of people, give them a lot of a goal to set and to work towards, to save their pennies and be ready when they keep looking and find the land. So folks, if you got anything out of this video, and I'm 100% certain you did, like us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.